It's Isaiah 65:16. What was Isaiah? What was his job back in the day? He was a prophet. What's a prophet? What's a prophet? Back in the day, prophets were people that were appointed by God a lot of times to give people a lot of really scary information about themselves. They were not generally popular people. It's kind of like when the doctor walks in the room and has to give you a diagnosis you don't want to hear. Prophets were running around having to do that to great many people all the time. And they were persecuted because of it, hated because of it, but at the same time, people followed them because they were chosen by God to give out a lot of information. At this time, a long time ago, long time ago, God's people were much like people today. They're crazy, running around, trying to figure out life, trying to figure out what to do. And so Isaiah always had words of wisdom about how to keep them on track. And that's just what's going on here in Isaiah chapter 65. Isaiah is telling them, you're going to have some good times, you're going to have some bad times, but you better get back on track, you better follow God, or your time's going to get a lot worse. Now, sometimes they paid attention, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they paid attention, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they got in trouble, sometimes they got out of trouble. He says in verse 16, here's some more advice for you, people, God's people. We can apply it today. Whoever invokes a blessing in the land will do so by the one true God. Whoever takes an oath in the land will swear by the one true God. For past troubles be forgotten, and they're going to be hidden from God's eyes. First thing, in our study of math we've been doing every week, we studied last week about oaths. We don't really use that word a lot today. Let's talk about being a promise, making a promise to somebody. You're standing up in front of church and you marry somebody, you're telling other people, I'm going to promise to be married to this person forever. You're taking an oath before God. God says don't do it if you don't mean it. I'd rather just don't do it all if you don't mean it. That's what we learned last week. This week we already talked about oaths, and he's saying if you're going to do it, you better do it only because God's going to support it with the one true God. Now, fast forward many years after this, the one true God comes and makes himself available as a person and is born into this world. He spent over 30 years running around telling people the same information. That if you're going to do something, you better mean it. And you better honor the one true God. At a time when they were having a celebration, much like today. This whole week is Rosh Hashanah for the Jewish people. It's their new year. But in the Bible, Jesus was celebrating Passover. The time when the angel of death, passed over God's people so they could live. Jesus was talking to them about this. They're having a celebration. And then he said, you know what? In a couple days, I'm going to die on the cross, be crucified, and come back. And they're like, what in the world is he talking about? So now we know what he's talking about. He's talking about he was the one true God. He is the one that we need to follow. And he was resurrected 3 days later. That's what we celebrate when we do communion. And that's what we're going to do right now. First of all, we're going to sing a song, How Great Thou Art. How great thou art. Great historical song for the church. It's our worship song to God to say, you are the one true God and how great you are. And let's stand for this song.